Hi, friends. I wanted to use this video as a way to talk a little bit about my two biggest, I guess, passions in life. And those are studying Japanese and reading manga. And typically, I like to, on this channel, talk about all of the manga that I read. Typically, it is in Japanese. I also really like to blog in English about the Japanese manga that I've read. So it's kind of a way for me to express both of my loves in one go. I do prefer reading in Japanese to English, but I prefer talking in English, at least online right now, because I can introduce some Japanese only series that I find interesting to my English only speaking friends. But I did want to talk a little bit about my Japanese language learning journey, as currently it's taken a bit of a pause and I'm trying to get it back rolling. I have been studying Japanese for 9 years at this point. It's been a very, very long time. I started studying Japanese by myself, so dokugaku, which is self study. I studied for myself for a few months, and then I went to Tokyo for the first time. And in Tokyo, I realized self studying for just a few months is nothing. I had taught myself hiragana and katakana before I went, which are two of the three mainly used alphabets in Japanese, and still it wasn't enough. I didn't know, like, there was a lot of common knowledge that I guess you wouldn't think to study by yourself. Like, a kind of funny to me now, but embarrassing at the time example is I went to McDonald's and I was really nervous, so I wasn't looking at the menu, but I knew I wanted a chicken burger. And in Japanese, a chicken burger is chicken baga, which is the exact same as English, just I guess with kind of a Japanese accent. But I didn't know that at the time. I knew I wanted a chicken, and chicken meat in Japanese is toriniku, and I guessed burger baga, so I ordered a toriniku baga. And the employee was so kind. He did understand what I wanted and he made it for me. But he told me, like, yeah, it's chicken baga. Like, what? So when I came back to Canada, I realized, okay, like I probably need a more formal education. I need more context in my learning. Like you can teach yourself quite a bit, but at least for me, I felt like I needed a little bit of guidance. So I entered university. I started not, it's called like a special student, where I wasn't, my grades weren't good enough to get into a normal university at the time. So I was allowed kind of conditionally to take one credit. And if I did good at that credit, then I would be accepted formally as a regular student. So I took Japanese, got an A, and then was accepted as a normal student. And in my first 2 years at university, I did all 4 years of Japanese classes all in one go. I studied very hard. Like that first semester, I started, technically you're supposed to start at level one, so year one, but because I had self studied a bit, I was put into year two. And while I was better than a lot of the first years at some stuff, I wasn't, like, I hadn't even begun studying other things like kanji, did not know any kanji. So in second year, I had to study all of the first year and second year kanji all together. And it was awful at the time. Like I would wake up, go to class, come home, study, go to bed, repeat. That's all I did for months. And eventually it worked out well because I can read a lot of kanji now. But at the time, I thought I was going to go crazy because I was studying so friggin' much. But it worked out, I guess. So after my 2 intense years of studying Japanese, I still had 2 years left at university, and I ended up working as a teaching assistant, where I wouldn't teach myself, but like I would have, or I wouldn't teach a class myself, but I would lead like smaller kind of seminars during my office hours. So I would have to teach myself something about Japanese, and then I would teach it to some of the students in the class, which allowed me to gain some experience. I would still have my own things to study. And then in teaching, you also get some more experience because you realize really quickly that if you don't know something perfectly, you realize it really quickly when you're trying to explain it to somebody and you can't. So that really helped me. When I realized I didn't know somebody, I had my professor who would help me right away. And that also helped me gain a lot of confidence in my Japanese. And then after graduating university here, I ended up moving to Japan to do my post grad. And for the I studied at a Japanese university in Japanese. Everything was Japanese, no English. I was the only in my class at least, or classes. I was the only English language, like native English language speaker in the whole class. So even if I really wanted to speak English, I didn't have all that many opportunities. Eventually, I did make a friend who could speak Japanese and English, and sometimes we would have these like weird like code switching conversations, which was really nice on my brain because I didn't really have to think; I could just talk. But besides that, besides hanging out with her, I only spoke in Japanese the entire time I was there. And that did wonders for both my self confidence and my language using abilities. Self confidence because at the time I didn't feel like my Japanese was all that good. And even then, when I tried to speak, people could understand me and they could reply in tow. And I felt so good about that. I figured, like, if my Japanese sucks so badly and yet people can understand me, imagine how much more I'll be able to convey when I get better. And that allowed me to get motivated to study more and speak more. And it just kind of went on and on from there. And I just like being able to speak in Japanese. I like Japanese. I like speaking in Japanese. I like hearing people talk in Japanese. It's just nice. And so my whole time there, Japanese only. I didn't really work while I was there. One of the things that one of our professors really, really highly suggested was getting a job while you're there because that's one of the best ways to get experience. Specifically, he recommended getting a job at a convenience store because you can do anything at a Japanese convenience store. I learned very, very quickly absolutely everything. And so you need the Japanese to be like, you need the linguistic capability to understand all of those requests. And there's a lot of requests that a customer can make at a convenience store. I kind of wanted to, but I was a little bit nervous. I didn't think my Japanese was good enough to be able to properly convey things at a convenience store. Like I could order things, I could make small talk, I could talk about my opinions, but like if you were to ask me like, can you be ready for any single question ever? And can you be ready to answer it without asking for clarification? Because a lot of times customers don't want to clarify, they just want answers now. It's a convenience store, it has to be convenient. I don't have the confidence that I could. So I didn't. But that's okay. I did work at one restaurant for one day. I learned very quickly that I cannot if you're speaking to me in Japanese, I cannot handwrite in like hiragana, katakana, kanji. I can't do it at the same time if I'm stressed. I learned that very quickly. And in learning that, I realized also, okay, probably should not be working at a restaurant just yet. But it was still the one day I was there was a very good experience because it helped me realize, okay, this is an area that I need improvement. I don't think I've improved all that much. It was very, very stressful. But after that, I came back to my country where I still am now. And unfortunately, because where I live, there's no opportunities really whatsoever to speak in Japanese or to hear Japanese. My speaking ability has really deteriorated, unfortunately. My reading and writing is still good. Like I you can see all my books behind me. I can shop online. I can buy my Japanese books, but I can't buy a friend to speak in person with. Like it's a little bit difficult. And I've tried using like language learning apps and whatnot, but like there's a lot of Japanese people who really want to learn English. And a couple years ago when I was studying, I made a lot of friends like that where sometimes we would speak in English, sometimes Japanese, and it kind of evened out. Nowadays, though, I feel like many people just want to practice English. They don't really want to let you practice Japanese, or they'll assume that your Japanese level is like rock bottom. And so when I'll say like I'll try and do like a 自己紹介, like I'll try and introduce myself. I'll get a わあ、日本語上手ですね. And then they won't reply to me. And I don't know if it's something that I said that was rude or something. I'll never know. And it's a little bit disheartening. So I've stopped trying to use the like pen pal apps and whatnot. And I'm just focusing on keeping up my reading, my reading and my kind of writing skills. but I kind of want to start my speaking again because I feel like I'm just going to continue deteriorating and deteriorating. I am level like N1-ish, but I feel the more that I don't use Japanese, like the lower and lower it gets, which is really depressing because I worked very hard to get here. So I'm thinking on this channel, well, I will continue talking about all of the books that I'm reading. And again, most of them will still probably be in Japanese, like 90% of the time. I would also like to start talking about different methods that I've liked to use for studying Japanese and kind of doing Japanese vlogs and whatnot. I haven't fully decided yet, but I do know that I would like to start using more and more Japanese so that I can get some practice so that it doesn't like fully deteriorate on me because I'm a little bit sad about that. I have studied a lot. Like I have my textbooks. I started with Genki. This is full of coffee stains at this point. This book is probably like 9 years old, I think, at this point. I have my intermediate Japanese book, which is one of my favorite textbooks. That is it weird to have a favorite textbook? I also have if you're trying to study kanji, I'm going off topic kind of, but if you're trying to study kanji, this is a really good dictionary. I've talked about all these materials in a much earlier video also, but when it comes to studying kanji, studying radicals should be one of the very first things that you do. Just a little a little tidbit of advice. At least in my opinion, if you speak a language like Mandarin, where you know kanji already, like obviously you don't really have to study the radicals, like you already know them, you just have to learn the different meaning or the different readings. But if you're brand new to kanji, you should learn the radicals. Radicals help you identify both how to read a kanji character and what it means. And like it won't always be perfect, but quite often once you come to terms with like okay, like I know quite a few radicals, you'll more often than not be able to guesstimate at meanings and readings, and it's very helpful. Another textbook I have is Speed Reading in Japanese. And I found that because I'm a big reader that I didn't really need that because I I read so much already. I'm a fast reader at this point. Though I will say that if you're trying to learn how to speed read specifically for the JLPT, do not, I'm like stressing this, do not think that because you read a lot, you'll be able to do well in the JLPT, especially like N2, N1. You need to like train yourself how to properly skim and search for information. Like it's its whole thing. When I first started prepping for like those kinds of tests, it took me a while to get the hang of things because I'm good at skimming and I'm good at reading, but skimming for a specific answer to a very like specific question, it's hard at first. At least it was for me. Also, JLPT N1. I do like the Shinkansen Master for Goli for vocabulary. I have not seen. I know there's some for like grammar and for kanji. I've never used them, so I can't say if they're good or not. I'm not quite sure. And then this is the very last textbook that I've ever used, and it's Progressing from Intermediate to Advanced Japanese. And then after I finished this one, I figured no more textbooks for me. I will just read my books, and it's come in handy. In doing testings, like surprisingly, the majority of the like difficult vocabulary that's popped up I've learned not from textbooks, but from my light novels, surprisingly, like specifically the fantasy light novels. So take that with a grain of salt. If you're trying to study Japanese, it's good to have, I'm like going all over the place, but it's good to have different materials that you're using to improve yourself all at once. So like just studying through one textbook won't get you very far. Just like if you're taking university classes for Japanese, just doing your university classwork and nothing else, like, yeah, you'll learn stuff, but there's so much more that you could learn if you kind of branch out more. And yeah, that's my advice. I've been studying Japanese for like 9 years, I think, at this point. It's been a while. And yeah, I'm pretty sad that I'm not able to use it in my day to day life as much as I was like when I was living in Japan So I read a lot now to quell it.